Hello students, welcome to second part of political science lesson number 4 United Nations. Myself Swati Hazare from Gokhale Education Society's HL High School English Medium, Ozhar Township, Nasik. In the first part we have learnt about background and chronology of the establishment of the United Nations as well as four main organs and their functions. In this part, we will proceed with International Court of Justice. International Court of Justice is located at Hague in the Netherlands. It is the judicial branch of the United Nations. It consists of 15 judges elected by the General Assembly on the recommendations of the Security Council for a period of 9 years. Here we can see International Court of Justice. The International Court of Justice means ICJ is the principal judicial organ of the United Nations. It was established in June 1945 by the Charter of the United Nations and began work in April 1946. The seat of the court is at the Peace Place in The Hague, Netherlands. Of the 6 principal organs of the United Nations, it is the only one not located in New York, means United States of America. The court is composed of 15 judges who are elected for terms of office of 9 years by the United Nations General Assembly and the Security Council. It is assisted by registry, its administrative organ. Its official languages are English and French. The president and vice president are elected by the members of the court every 3 years by secret ballot. The election is held on the date on which members of the court elected at a triennial election begin their terms of office shortly thereafter. The president presides at all meetings of the court. He or she directs its work and supervises its administration. In The Hague, he or she is obliged to reside. The vice president replaces the president in his or her absence or in the event of a vacancy in the presidency, and in the absence of the vice president, this role falls to the senior judge. Now we will see the function of the International Court of Justice. To settle the disputes between 2 or more member nations of the United Nations, to interpret international law authentically, to advise the various organs or subsidiary bodies of the United Nations about legal issues. The court's role is to settle, in accordance with international law, legal disputes submitted to it by states and to give advisory opinions on legal questions referred to it by authorized United Nations organs and specialized agencies. Every year, the court submits a report on its activities to the United Nations General Assembly. The report covers the period from 1st August of one year to 31st July of the next. It generally includes an introductory summary and information about the court's organization, jurisdiction, and judicial work, together with reports of visits, events, and lectures, the court's publications and documents, and administrative and budgetary issues. Come to the next point, International Criminal Court. The International Criminal Court is an international tribunal. Tribunal means a court of justice. Its headquarters are at The Hague in the Netherlands. It has the jurisdiction to prosecute individuals for international crimes of genocide, crimes against humanity and war crimes. International Criminal Court. The International Criminal Court is an international tribunal. Its headquarters are at The Hague in the Netherlands. It has the jurisdiction to prosecute individuals for international crimes of genocide, crimes against humanity and war crimes. Logo Trusteeship Council of UN. Next point. Next, principal organ of United Nations. We can see here logo Trusteeship Council of United Nations. See, trustee. Trustee means what? Trustee is a person or a member of a board given control over the property or affairs of another. Then trusteeship means the office or function of a trustee or the administrative control of a territory granted to a country by a body. Body means Trusteeship Council of United Nations. And trust territory, a territory under the administrative control of a country appointed by the United Nations, a territory under the trusteeship of United Nations. So the Trusteeship Council. Trusteeship Council. One of the principal organs of the United Nations designed to supervise the government of trust territories and to lead them to self-government or independence. The Council originally consisted of states administering trust territories. Permanent members of the Security Council that did not administer trust territories and other members elected by the General Assembly with the independence of Palau in 1994. The Council suspended operations means the work of the Trusteeship Council is over as there are no trust territories left. Originally, the Council met once each year. Each member had one vote and decisions were taken by a simple majority of those present. Since 1994, the Council is no longer required to meet annually, though it may meet on the decision of the Trusteeship Council's President or on a request by a majority of its members, by the General Assembly or by the Security Council. The responsibility of administration and development of the developed territories was assigned to the developed countries as trust territories. Once the trust territories attain independence, help them to establish democracy. With the grant of independence to Palau Island in the Pacific on the 1st November 1994, the work of the Trusteeship Council has ended. The main goals of the system were to promote the advancement of the inhabitants of trust territories and their progressive development towards self-government or independence. The Trusteeship Council is made up of the 5 permanent members of the Security Council: China, France, Russia, the Russian Federation, the United Kingdom and the United States. The aims of the trusteeship system have been fulfilled to the extent that all trust territories have attained self-government or independence, either as separate states or by joining neighboring independent countries. Means the work of the Trusteeship Council is over as there are no trust territories left. Next, we can see here international labor organizations. So that means till now we have seen all 6 principal organs of United Nations. Apart from these 6 major organs, many affiliated organizations of the United Nations are working in the areas of social and economic development. The first one is International Labour Organization, ILO. Its main function is to try to improve the condition of workers, ensure that they get due wages and their health is protected, etc. Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. Its main function is to solve the problem of poverty, malnutrition and starvation in the world and guide the process of enhancing food grain production, FAO. Next, World Health Organization. This organization is engaged in the task of improving the physical and mental health of the people in the world, carry out immunization campaigns to control epidemics, etc. Next organization we can see after this, United Nations high level meeting on the fight to end tuberculosis, 28th September 2018, New York. IAEA, that means International Atomic Energy Agency. This agency has been given the important task of keeping a check on the use of civil nuclear energy, that it will not be used for military purposes, and visiting the nuclear sites in different countries to carry out inspection for the same. So, just now we have seen information about other organizations of United Nations. Next, Millennium Development Goals. The United Nations member nations came together in 2000 and decided upon the development goals for the new millennium. Some of the important goals are, see here, to eliminate poverty and hunger, to make available the facilities of primary education, to bring about women's empowerment, to take special care of the health of pregnant women, to fight diseases like AIDS, malaria, etc., to protect the environment and increase the cooperation between developed and developing countries. We can see here the Millennium Development Goals. No poverty, no hunger, good health, quality education, gender equality, clean water and sanitation, clean energy, good jobs and economic growth, innovation and infrastructure, reduced inequalities, sustainable cities and communities, responsible consumption, protect the planet, life below water, life on land, peace and justice, partnerships for the goals. The global goals, we can see here the global goals. All these were the global goals. So, a time period has been decided to achieve these goals. India has made considerable progress in the direction of achieving the Millennium Development Goals with the help of UNICEF and UNESCO. United Nations Children's Fund, means UNICEF, works towards making nutritious food and health care available to children. It has organized many workshops in India find out measures to overcome malnutrition among babies and children. The United Nations Children's Fund, originally known as the United Nations International Children's Emergency Fund, was created by the United Nations General Assembly on 11th December 1946 to provide emergency food and health care to children and mothers in countries that had been devastated by World War II. It is a United Nations agency responsible for providing developmental aid to children worldwide. United Nations headquarters is in New York City. The world's largest provider of vaccines for developing countries, UNICEF supports child health and nutrition, good water and sanitation, quality basic education for all boys and girls, and the protection of children from violence, exploitation and AIDS, and providing emergency relief in response to disasters. The UNICEF logo, this is UNICEF logo. Logo comprises the image of a mother and child. We can see here this image, mother and child, a globe, this olive branches, as well as the word mark. The depiction of mother and child emphasizes the noble mission UNICEF undertakes, while the olive wreath means circular arrangement of leaves. This circular arrangement of leaves can be interpreted in a number of ways. Okay. Now come to the next point, UNESCO. United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization works towards peace and security in the world. It does so by promoting cooperation between member countries in the fields of education, science and culture. UNESCO was founded in 1945 as the successor to the League of Nations International Committee on Intellectual Cooperation. Its constitution establishes the agency's goals, governing structure and operating framework. UNESCO's mission is to advance or promote peace, sustainable development and human rights and dialogue among nations. It pursues or achieves this objective through 5 major program areas: education, natural sciences, social or human sciences, culture and communication or information. UNESCO sponsors projects that improve literacy, provide technical training and education, advance science, protect independent media and press freedom, preserve regional and cultural history and promote cultural diversity. Actually, UNESCO's mission is to contribute to the building of a culture of peace, the eradication of poverty, sustainable development and intercultural dialogue through education, sciences, culture, communication and information. Next, United Nations and preservation of peace. The objective of the United Nations is to settle international conflicts peacefully. The United Nations Charter lays down the ways and means to be employed to achieve this goal. The United Nations makes efforts to ensure that violence does not erupt in strife-torn areas and normalcy is restored at the earliest. Strife-torn means conflict. It does so by starting schools, creating awareness among the people about human rights, makes social, economic, political facilities available, conducts elections, etc. The objectives of the United Nations is to settle international conflict peacefully. The United Nations Charter lays down the ways and means to be employed to achieve this goal. It includes appointing an intermediary acceptable to the nations involved in the conflict, use the legal procedure, appoint as arbitrator to solve the dispute, and if needed to take recourse to military means and ensure that conflict will not occur again. In modern times, human security has been threatened by terrorism, racist, and religious conflict. As a result, the function of securing peace of the United Nations has acquired a lot of importance. The United Nations makes efforts to ensure that violence does not erupt in strife-torn areas, and normalcy is restored as soon as possible by, for example, starting schools, creating awareness among the people about human rights, make social, economic, political facilities available, conduct elections, etc. Next point, United Nations peacekeeping. The peacekeeping activities of the United Nations involve creating circumstances favorable for bringing about permanent peace in strife-torn areas. The peacekeeping forces are sent to these areas to restore normalcy. The other supplementary activities are prevention of conflict and mediation, actually establish peace, implement the measures of protecting peace and peace building. Peacekeeping has proven to be one of the most effective tools available to the United Nations to assist host countries navigate the difficult path to peace. Today's multidimensional peacekeeping operations are called upon not only to maintain peace and security but also to facilitate political processes, protect civilians, assist in the disarmament. Disarmament means the reduction of or withdrawal of military forces and weapons, demobilization and reintegration of former rival countries. Rival countries, that means nations engaged in fighting during wars. Peacekeeping operations get their formal order from the United Nations Security Council. Their troops and police are contributed by member states, and they are managed by the Department of Peace Operations and supported by the Department of Operational Support at the United Nations headquarters in New York. Next point, the United Nations and India. India is a founder member of the United Nations. India has raised the issues like decolonization, disarmament, racism, and the issues of the developing countries on the platform of the United Nations. India was the first country to raise the questions of racism in 1946. India was among the original members of the United Nations that signed the declaration by United Nations at Washington, D.C. in October of 1944 and also participated in the United Nations Conference on International Organization at San Francisco from 25th April to 26th June 1945, means 2 years before acquiring independence from Britain. By 1946, India had started raising concerns regarding colonization, racial discrimination. From 1947-48, India took an active part in drafting of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Dr. Hansa Mehta, a Gandhian political activist and social worker who led the Indian delegation. Delegation, that means a group of representatives, had made important contributions in drafting of the declaration, especially highlighting the need for gender equality by changing the language of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, means which was there, all men are created equal, means from all men are created equal to all human beings. This was the change made by this delegation. In 1953, the chief delegate of India at the time, Vijaya Lakshmi Pandit, was elected the first woman president of the United Nations General Assembly. India supported the struggle towards global disarmament and the ending of the arms race and towards the creation of a more equitable international economic order. India has always sent her troops to participate in the United Nations peacekeeping forces. India has sent an all-women peacekeeping force as well. India makes serious efforts to solve international conflicts by peaceful means. India is a charter member of the United Nations and participated in all of its specialized agencies and organizations. India has contributed troops to United Nations peacekeeping efforts. As a founding member of the United Nations, India strongly supports the purposes and principles of the United Nations and has made significant contributions in implementing the goals of the Charter and the evolution of the United Nations specialized programs and agencies. So students, today we have learnt about International Court of Justice, Trusteeship Council and their functions. Also we have learnt about many affiliated organizations of the United Nations. So I hope you understood the lesson. Thanks for watching.